A family doctor like me can't choose his working hours, especially when a patient's family is on the verge of increasing. Weeks ago, Jane Williams had promised to get me up early the day I delivered her baby. She was joking then. 7:58 a.m., a 7-pound girl. Then something happened to Jane. She began to hemorrhage, massive bleeding, shock. Her life was suddenly flowing away, pint by pint of her precious blood. There were two things to do, quickly. Stop the hemorrhage and give blood. Through our Red Cross community blood program, I had the blood to give. Pint by pint of someone else's blood, perhaps yours. 3 pints of blood from 3 people, names unknown, who had gone to the Red Cross with no idea that their mission was to save Jane Williams' life. This was emergency, and we were prepared, with blood ready in the hospital, waiting to be used. Blood was the only medicine to use. Without immediate transfusions, this mother might have died. Jane was going to be all right. And so was her husband. Jack Williams was wearing out the floor like so many expectant fathers before him. When I told him about his baby girl, he beamed proudly just like all the others. Then I explained about his wife, and fear suddenly seized him as he thought about what might have been. I couldn't help telling him that blood was the medicine that pulled her through. A medicine that only people can provide for their fellow humans. Jack was a grateful man when I left him. So it didn't really surprise me some time later when he turned up at the Red Cross Bloodmobile unit. I was the volunteer physician that day. Jack had given his pint of blood and was feeling good about it. That sense of belonging. Here he was among friends. Why, that canteen worker was his down-the-block neighbor. And over there, well, that fellow, the last time Jack saw him, he was checking Jack's car. The giving of blood is truly a community matter. And the blood program is nothing more than all of us working together. Jack was learning this fast, but he didn't know about blood itself, what it did, what made the blood program tick. Remembering his wife's experience, he wanted to know, and I was glad to tell him. Each day, from bloodmobiles and donor centers, the gift of blood is channeled into Red Cross regional centers that balance blood supply and blood demand. This is more than mere blood bookkeeping. There are vital facts we must know about each pint of blood before it can be used. To get these facts, skilled technicians in the Red Cross laboratories test and check, determining the group and RH factor of each pint of blood. Rechecking blood groups with one goal in mind, to guarantee medically safe blood. Labeled and dated, the blood in the refrigerator is ready for delivery to the blood bank of a local hospital, where withdrawals may come at any time of day or night. Let me tell you how blood is put to work saving lives, any hour, any day. The hospital's daily report carries a bare, unemotional story of needs arising and needs met. But some things it doesn't tell. It doesn't tell of a workman who suffers internal injuries, blood loss, shock from an industrial accident. No time for cross-matching of whole blood. Emergency transfusion of serum albumin, a blood derivative, saves his life. A little later in the morning, an exchange transfusion on an infant with an Rh factor problem. The infant's entire blood supply drained and replaced. Close to noon, a boy accidentally burned. Third-degree burns, shock. Transfusions of serum albumin counteract the shock and help to combat the burns. In the afternoon, no emergency, but vital use of whole blood to build up a patient before radical surgery. Late that night, an automobile accident on a nearby highway sends 3 victims to the hospital. A catastrophe for any town, large or small, and a drain on its blood supplies. But the supplies are there. Thanks to volunteer blood donors, the patients receive emergency transfusions of whole blood and live. Yes, I told Jack, the hospital report carries the statistics, but it leaves the heart of the story untold. It doesn't tell of the crib that might be empty, but now holds a treasured life because neighbors took time to give blood. There's nothing in the report about a boy's bicycle that might have rusted unridden, if not for a ready supply of blood derivatives to counteract burns. Or that pretty garden that might have lost its gardener if blood had not prepared her for radical surgery. The report wouldn't tell you of a salesman's car standing driverless, but for the blood reserve that helped repair bodily damage from a highway mishap. We doctors know, for one by one, the bottles of blood are called up from the hospital's refrigerator to do their life-restoring jobs. Those bottles not used for whole blood transfusions are put to other uses. Back at the Red Cross Regional Center Labs, they join with fresh blood specifically allocated for processing into blood products or derivatives. Into the centrifuge they go to whirl around at high speed as though in a tornado. The result? The first step in taking out of whole blood those special parts we want, separation of the clear liquid plasma from the mass of blood cells. This is a community get-together in the real sense. The plasma from many individual pint bottles is pooled in the regional center and then moves on to pharmaceutical plants to be broken down into blood derivatives. What began in the hearts and bodies of 1,000 communities gives way to medical technology and chemical skill. Physiology and engineering join hands, refining the plasma into the components or fractions that modern medicine demands and is getting. Fractionation by alcohol. Further processing that freezes the liquid and then dries it to a fine powder. Freeze drying of albumen in modern vacuum ovens. The whole process is as up-to-date as tomorrow. Sterile filtering under ultraviolet light. Testing by the magic of electronics, which sees what can't be seen. Filling vials under conditions of strict asepsis. Somewhere, sometime, and very likely soon, these blood products will be pressed into service. The service of people, the saving of lives. I know the value of these blood derivatives, how they are helping countless doctors in the never-ending campaign for health. Serum albumin pulling patients out of the dangers of shock. Gamma globulin warding off measles as well as infectious hepatitis or jaundice. Fibrinogen helping to stem the flow of blood in hemorrhaging that doesn't respond to whole blood alone. This is blood and its uses now, this year, the present. But the future is coming up fast. Medical science is working on the future now, in laboratories all over the country, finding more and more ways for blood to solve the basic problems of health and life. Why, within the next few years, I may be writing prescriptions for only those blood components my patients need. As a matter of fact, Red Cross now provides us with packed red cells for patients who need only this pot of blood. The program also supplies fresh frozen plasma for combating hemophilia. In these uses, we're getting pretty close to the prescription idea. There was much more I could have told Jack Williams about the blood story, but he had plenty to think about already. A year later, Jack was still proud of his donor pin, for he had resolved to give blood at least once a year on his daughter's birthday, a day he would forever associate with the gift of blood. For Jack knew the important truth that one man's blood is another man's medicine, another man's life. For blood is life, yours and your neighbor's alike.